You know, at 29 years old, I had every box checked. I had a 6-figure career in finance. I owned a beautiful home in San Diego. I had just finished a comprehensive Pilates certification and was in some of the best shape of my life. I was married, fit, and successful by every standard that society hands to us. From the outside, it looked like I had it all together. But inside, I was unraveling. I didn't know it yet, or maybe more honestly, I did know it, and I just didn't want to face it. I had been living in a constant state of push, of performance, of perfection, of doing what I thought I was supposed to do. And then one Sunday afternoon in 2005, everything changed. I was in the Container Store with my sister-in-law. We were looking at the design your own closet section, something I would have normally found pretty fun. But suddenly, out of nowhere, I couldn't hold my body upright. I leaned against a table just to stay standing. Within seconds, the store went black. Not metaphorically, literally. I couldn't see. I couldn't fully move. My phone rang in my purse, and I couldn't read the screen. I fumbled in my purse and thrust my phone toward Julie and said, "Who's calling? I can't read this." My husband walked in, and I rested my head on his chest and said, "I just need to go home. I'm really tired." And then I collapsed. My body crumbled to the floor in the middle of a store on a normal Sunday afternoon. No warning, no trauma, just complete system shutdown. They put me into a wheelchair and wheeled me to our Toyota Highlander, and I was coming in and out of consciousness the whole time. As we were driving to the emergency room, I kept telling everyone, "Just take me home. I'm like a computer. I just need to reboot." As we pulled up to the emergency room, I was regaining consciousness. I looked up at the hospital and I said to Mike, "This is Scripps. My hospital's Sharp. I need to go to Sharp." He chuckled a bit and he's like, "No, we're going here. This is where you're going." Even in the midst of an emergency, I was trying to negotiate which hospital we were going to because, and I laugh about this now, I was worried about whether my insurance would cover it. That's how deeply ingrained the keep it together mindset was. That's how much I was still trying to manage life, even as my body was literally shutting down. In triage, the nurse kept asking me what drugs I had taken, as they were certain based on the way I was behaving that I was just high. The thing was, I had never touched a drug or even a cigarette. As the diagnosis came back later that night, the doctors were stunned. I was healthy. I ran. I did Pilates. I ate decently. I didn't smoke. But here I was, being put into an ambulance to take me to Sharp, as, even in the middle of this medical emergency, I was right. My insurance covered Sharp, not Scripps. I was a 29-year-old woman who was doing everything right from the outside, and I had just had a stroke in the middle of the Container Store. And to make matters worse, I was in the hospital for 3 days before they let me go home and continue rehab back through private Pilates. But after 3 days in the hospital, what was the first thing I did the next morning? What all strong women do. I went to work. Rather than taking another day off, I was staying at my desk by Wednesday morning, almost as if nothing had happened. Looking back, it wasn't just a medical emergency. It was divine intervention. 49-year-old Amy can't fathom what the heck 29-year-old Amy was thinking at the moment. But my body was saying, "You're not listening, so I'm going to make you listen." Here's the thing, and I say this with deep love. So many women are just like me right now, living right on the edge of this kind of burnout and full collapse, and you may not even realize it. We normalize fatigue. We normalize dread. We normalize digestive issues, mood swings, insomnia. And we brush them off with phrases like, "This is just a part of getting older," or "I've just got a lot going on." But it's not normal. It's not normal to dread your life. It's not normal to feel exhausted all the time. It's not normal to feel like your body is betraying you when it's actually just trying to save you. And yet, over 80% of autoimmune disease sufferers are women. Women are more likely to die from strokes than men. And the majority of women experiencing these issues are also high performers, the ones holding it all together, showing up for everyone else, and powering through the pain. But your body is always speaking. First, it whispers. Then, if you don't listen, it shouts. And sometimes it knocks you flat on your back just to get your attention. That moment in the Container Store was terrifying, but it was also a gift, one that would completely redirect my life. And while I wouldn't wish it on anyone, I'm grateful for it because it woke me up. It forced me to ask some hard questions about the life I was building and whether it actually fit. Here's what's wild. That day in the Container Store, it wasn't the beginning of the story. It was the climax, the moment that everything finally boiled over. The truth is, my body had been whispering to me for years. But like so many women I work with now, I didn't know how to recognize those whispers. Or maybe I just didn't want to. And to be honest, it took me another 3 years until I got up the courage to burn down that dream life and start all over again. I had normalized so many things. The anxiety that crept in every Sunday afternoon. The racing heart before Monday meetings. The tension headaches. The weight gain that didn't make sense. The fact that I was opening wine at 3 p.m. on a Sunday, not because I wanted to celebrate life, but because I wanted to escape it. That wasn't self-care, it was survival. I didn't call it burnout. I didn't call it misalignment. I called it just being an adult. And that's the problem. We've normalized dysfunction. We're taught that success looks like hustle, that being tired all the time is just part of being a high-achieving woman, that sacrificing our health, sleep, peace, and body is just part of the cost of having it all. But we weren't designed to live that way. Let me give you a few numbers that just might hit home. In a 2021 Deloitte survey, 77% of women said they experienced burnout at work, and 1 in 3 considered leaving or taking a step back because of it. According to leanin.org, 60% of women regularly put other people's needs ahead of their own, even when they're already running on empty. The American Psychological Association reports that women are consistently more likely than men to experience physical symptoms of stress, like headaches, fatigue, and insomnia. Let that sink in. Most of us don't even pause until our bodies force us to do it. For me, the whispers came in so many small, quiet ways. The restlessness, the craving for more, even when I had enough. The desire to be anywhere but at my desk. But I kept pushing because I didn't want to disappoint anyone, because I didn't want to waste my degree, because I didn't know there was another way. And if that's where you are right now, I want you to hear me clearly. There is another way. You don't have to keep pushing past your pain just to prove your worth. You don't have to earn your right to rest. You don't have to be in crisis for your needs to matter. You can listen now while it's still a whisper, instead of waiting until it becomes a scream. You know, that deep breath you've been craving? That peace you daydream about on your commute? That little nudge that says, this isn't it? That's your body. That's your soul. That's your intuition. And it's wiser than any checklist or job title or paycheck. Fortunately, I did listen to my body, and I did do something really radical. I left my multiple six-figure finance career, I drained my savings, and I launched my first fitness studio in 2010. I then launched my second studio in 2011. I started a consulting business. For the next 7 years, I managed 2 studios, a 6-figure consulting business, and a team of about 50 people. Again, focusing on going bigger, doing more. After building a 7-figure business, I realized that I was again focusing on the wrong things. I can't seem to step out of this extreme desire for achievement. Hello, Enneagram number 3. You'd think that after having a stroke at 29, I would have learned the lesson once and for all, right? But here's the truth. Healing isn't linear, and alignment isn't a one-time decision. It's a choice we have to keep moving over and over again. Fast forward nearly 2 decades after that first collapse, and I found myself in the ICU again. This time it was on my 48th birthday, and I was supposed to be celebrating life. Instead, I was sitting in a hospital bed with stroke-level blood pressure, my body once again screaming for my attention. And I remember lying there thinking, how did I get back here? I'd built the dream. I'd walked away from the corporate grind. I'd opened 2 successful fitness studios. I'd helped hundreds of women launch their own fitness studios and wellness businesses. I was doing what I loved. But somewhere along the way, I started pushing again. The travel, the launches, the pressure to do more, be more, scale bigger. It crept back in slowly. And because I was doing something I loved so much, I didn't notice until my body made sure I did. It started on a business trip to Miami. I was there to attend 2 incredible masterminds, surrounded by inspiring women and big dreams. But by the time I came home, I was exhausted, like bone deep, can't catch my breath exhausted. Turns out while I was there, I was exposed to toxic mold. It triggered an inflammatory response that mimicked lung cancer. I had spots on my lungs. I developed severe asthma. I coughed constantly. My energy was shot, and for months, I couldn't live my normal active life. Doctors were running test after test, radiation after radiation, more than 20 in 1 year, and still no answers. I was stuck in a system that kept handing me pills instead of listening to my story. So once again, I had to become my own advocate. I spent thousands of dollars on functional labs. I worked with an integrative health practitioner who didn't just treat the symptoms, they looked for the root cause. And that was the beginning of my second awakening. I finally started healing, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and professionally. I realized I wasn't just battling mold. I was battling misalignment. I was battling overfunctioning. I was battling self-neglect disguised as ambition. It broke my heart because I thought I had graduated from this lesson, but I hadn't. This time, though, I chose to listen sooner. I stopped asking, how can I do more? And I started asking, what needs to change so I can feel whole? I took time off. I got quiet. I prayed. I rested. I started thinking about how I could support other women going through the exact same thing. Because I wasn't alone, and I knew that. I had coached enough women in business to know this is an epidemic. Did you know that autoimmune diseases, which include conditions like MOGAD, lupus, Hashimoto's, RA, and more, affect over 50 million Americans, and 80% of them are women? It's not just genetics. It's not just bad luck. It's the pressure, the pace, the perfectionism, the chronic stress, the toxins in our homes, our food, and our minds. And we cannot ignore it anymore. This wake-up call sent me on a whole new path. I didn't just want to run a business. I wanted to live well. I wanted to help other women reclaim their health and power before they landed in the ICU on their birthday. So I became a certified integrative health practitioner. I started living simpler, and I made a promise to myself and to you that I would never ignore my body again. So let's have a moment of real honesty here. Because if no one has said it to you lately, let me be the one to say it. You can be smart, successful, driven, and still be deeply unwell. And for so many of the high-performing women I've worked with, CEOs, coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, corporate climbers, this is exactly what's happening. On the outside, they look unshakable. But on the inside, they're exhausted, they're anxious, they're inflamed, they're not sleeping, their hormones are wrecked, their guts are wrecked, their relationships are strained, and their joy, it just feels gone. And maybe if we're honest, you feel that way too. Let me say something bold here. It's not because you're broken, it's because you're burning. You've been running on adrenaline. You've been stuck in survival mode. You've been chasing the next goal, the next launch, the next promotion, the next client, hoping that maybe then you'll finally feel okay. But friend, the nervous system can only white-knuckle life for so long. So let's talk about why this is happening. Not just to one or two of us, but to an entire generation of high-functioning, heart-driven, brilliant women. Reason number one, we were taught that our worth is in our output. We grew up being praised for being good girls, straight-A students, helpers, performers. We learned early that success equals validation, and that conditioning runs deep. We push ourselves harder than anyone else does, and then we beat ourselves up for not doing more. Reason number two, we're managing more roles than ever. The average woman today is juggling career, home, aging parents, kids, marriage, finances, health, friendships, and trying to hold everyone else's world together while her own world feels like it's fraying at the seams. Reason three, we don't feel safe slowing down. Because if we stop, what might fall apart? What might surface? What will people think? But here's the truth that no one tells us. Slowing down isn't weak, it's wise. Let me share a few statistics that underline just how not alone you are. According to the CDC, 1 in 5 women in the US report being diagnosed with a mental health condition, but many more suffer silently. Autoimmune disease rates in women have more than doubled in the past 20 years, and stress is a known trigger. McKinsey's 2022 Women in the Workplace report revealed that 43% of women leaders are considering leaving their roles for something less toxic. And 1 in 3 are leaving corporate careers entirely in pursuit of health, fulfillment, and flexibility. I can attest to that, as that is exactly the woman that comes to me and wants to open a fitness studio. She's normally been uber successful in corporate America, and she just wakes up one day and says, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not how I want to end my life. And so she comes to me with this dream of bringing something else to the world for other women just like her. Think about that. That's not failure. That's women waking up. That's women saying, I want more peace than prestige. That's women realizing, I didn't come this far to abandon myself. That was me, and maybe it's you too. So I want to say this loud and clear. If you've gained weight you can't explain, if you're tired even after 8 hours of sleep, if you feel inflamed, anxious, wired but tired, disconnected, or like you're living on autopilot, you're not crazy and you're not lazy. You are likely living out of alignment. And your body is probably doing its best to speak up for the parts of you that you've had to silence to survive. And let's be real. You've probably done a darn good job surviving, but now it's time to heal. So if you're feeling all those things, the fatigue, the brain fog, the mood swings, the weight gain, the sense that something just feels off, I want you to hear me on this. Your body isn't failing you, it's fighting for you. It's doing everything it can to gain your attention. But we've been taught to treat our bodies like they're problems to fix, not teachers to listen to. Think about how we're conditioned. We numb the headache with Tylenol. We silence the gut issues with antacids. We push through fatigue with caffeine. We suppress the anxiety with wine or scrolling or another to-do list. And all the while, our body is begging us to pause and ask, what do I need? What am I ignoring? What's out of alignment? I've learned, often the hard way, that our symptoms are not the enemy, they're the messengers. And they show up to tell us when something deeper is off. And the sooner we stop trying to shut them down, the sooner we can tune in. When I began working with functional medicine practitioners, I finally started seeing the full picture. My gut health was deeply impacted by stress. My hormones were swinging wildly from burnout. My immune system was constantly overreacting, trying to protect me from a lifestyle that wasn't sustainable. And for the first time, I didn't feel crazy. I felt seen. That experience changed everything for me. It's why I became a certified integrative health practitioner myself, because women deserve to understand what's happening in their bodies and not just be handed another prescription and sent on their way. When I started working with clients, their minds got clearer, their energy came back, they started sleeping, their weight became less of a battle, and their moods evened out. And more than anything, they started to feel hopeful again. And that's the real magic, isn't it? Because when your body feels safe, you feel empowered. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop doubting and start trusting. You stop fighting your body and you start partnering with it. This shift isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's foundational. So when I say your body is your best coach, I mean it. It knows what you need before your mind can catch up. It's not just about food or supplements or steps. It's about alignment. And that brings me to the last part of this journey, how I started building a life and business that finally supported my health. So let's talk about what it really looks like to pivot toward purpose and peace. Once I began healing my body, truly healing it from the inside out, I realized I couldn't keep building a business that worked against my well-being. The hustle I used to glorify, the girl boss energy that kept me pushing at all costs, the 90-hour work weeks and the pressure to scale fast, the nonstop doing, it wasn't sustainable. And more importantly, it wasn't really necessary. Because here's what I know now. You don't need to burn yourself out to build something beautiful. When I first walked away from my finance career, I didn't have a clear map. I just knew the old way wasn't working. And what started as a Pilates certification turned into 2 thriving fitness studios, then a consulting business, then courses and speaking and coaching women all over the world. But even after leaving the corporate grind, I carried the same patterns with me, the overworking, the perfectionism, the fear of rest. It wasn't until my second health crash that I finally made a conscious decision to do it differently. That decision became living simpler, a business, a mission, a lifestyle. It's everything I wish I had when I was in the thick of the chaos. A reminder that it's okay to slow down, to choose health over hustle, to build a life that feels good in your body instead of just looking good on your resume. And I want to be clear, choosing simpler didn't mean choosing smaller. It meant choosing smarter. It meant honoring my energy. It meant letting go of the shoulds. It meant saying no to what drained me and yes to what felt aligned. It meant building a business that gives me freedom, not one that takes it away. And I'm not the only one. Did you know that in the last 20 years, women-owned businesses in the US have grown by over 114%? Women aren't walking away from success. They're walking toward wholeness. They're realizing that success without wellness isn't really success at all. This pivot changed my life, but more importantly, it gave me the clarity and capacity to help other women change theirs. Women who are navigating menopause, blood sugar issues, autoimmune flare-ups, mysterious symptoms, weight that won't budge, energy that disappears by 2 p.m., I see you. Women who want to start a business, not to prove anything to anyone, but to build something that feels aligned, joyful, and sustainable. I see you too. That's what Living Simpler is here for the intersection of health, entrepreneurship, and freedom. Because I believe that when women feel good in their bodies, they change the world. And that starts by changing the way we live. So if you're in that in-between space right now, not quite sure what the next chapter looks like, but very clear that the old chapter is done, you're in the right place. You don't have to blow it all up tomorrow. You don't have to figure it all out today, but you do get to choose something better. And that brings us to our final segment where I'm going to walk you through what to do next. Not a big leap, just one small, powerful, doable step toward a life that fits. So if you're still with me, I want to take a minute to just pause and say thank you. Thank you for showing up for this conversation. Thank you for being willing to hear what your own body might be trying to say to you. And most of all, thank you for choosing yourself, because I know this isn't always easy. It's easier to ignore the whispers. It's easier to power through. It's easier to stay in the familiar, even when it's hurting us. But easier doesn't mean better. And deep down, you already know that. So maybe today isn't about changing your whole life. Maybe it's about choosing one small step back to yourself. Not a crash diet, not a 10-day detox, not a new business plan or a big leap into the unknown. Just a quiet moment of honesty. Start here. How do I feel in my body right now? Where am I pushing when I could be softening? What have I been tolerating that I no longer want to carry? What's the one thing my body or soul has been trying to tell me? Because you don't need more noise, you need space. You need stillness. You need support. The kind that honors your pace, your values, and your wellness. So here's your invitation. Drink the water. Take the walk. Book the lab test. Cancel the thing you dread. Go to bed earlier. Say the no that you've been holding back. Or maybe whisper a soft yes to something new. You don't have to do all the things. You just need to do the next right thing. You don't have to do all the things. You just need to do the next right thing. And if you're ready to explore what that might look like for your body, your business, or your bigger vision, I'd love to walk alongside you. You can always reach out on Instagram to @AmyMewborn or visit living-simpler.com for resources, tools, and support to help you live a life that feels like yours again. Because you're not too late, you're right on time, and your body, it's still cheering for you. You just have to listen. Until next time, take care of you, and remember, simple is powerful.